Okay, I will edit whatever it is. I mean, whatever we are talking right now will start. But it will be a casual talk, Steve. So, I would just talk about. So, first, hi, Steve.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
Would you like to introduce your audience?
Yeah, that's what we are doing. So, hi, Steve. Again, rolling. So, Steve, you are. We met through Farhan.
Yes.
And it was when he was working with you. And at that time, Farhan talked about a very interesting topic that you brought to him. So first, let's talk about you and tell us something about you before we move ahead with some of our conversations.
Okay. Well, I was a software developer as a part of my career. I'm a parent. You want to start over?
Yeah, that's
You can edit it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you can just edit it. Okay. And I'm married and have three.
No, you can start. Say again.
I'm married and have three children, and was a software development manager and a software developer before that. But when I met Farhan, I was a software development manager, and he worked for me.
Okay. So there was one interesting topic you talked to him about, and that was about finance. And that is not finance for adults, but about kids.
Mm-hmm.
That you tried with your kids. So can you just tell more? What did you try and how did it work out?
Yeah, I think as a small child, my parents always gave me an allowance. And it was just a few cents a week or every couple of weeks, whatever. But I thought it was an important thing to have control of your own money. But I thought my kids should have a similar experience. But as I grew older, I realized that you don't just get an allowance. There's taxes and there's savings for retirement and there's charity. So you should try and live on less than what you make. Charles Dickens in David Copperfield, is that the name of the book? I think it's David Copperfield, has a character named McWhobber. And in that book, he talks about when the character is giving advice to the younger David Copperfield. And McWhobber says that if you are, let's just put it in US terms, if your income is $20 and your expenses are $20.25, that's misery. But if your income is $20 and your expenses are $19.75, that's joy, right? So the point is you need to live on less than what you make. And so maybe some of us would talk about making more money to change the number there, but anyhow. So I saw that as an important kind of foundational thing, that how you view money is an important thing, and how you look at your life and how you live your life matters. So I wanted to try and take some of those principles and instill them in my children, and so I came up with the idea of 10 quarters. So $2.50, and I don't remember if we did it every couple of weeks or every month. I can't remember the details exactly, but the idea that I had was that I would give them effectively 10 quarters, but I'd hold one back because that was for taxes. And of course, I didn't really want to keep the money. So then I said, if you contribute one quarter, I will match it and have it for longer term savings, and think of that as your retirement money. And then I said, okay, but you also sometimes have to save money for short-term things. Of course, as an adult, we'd think about a new laundry or a new stove or something like that. But for the kids, it was maybe for a bigger, expensive toy or something that they wanted to save up for. And then I said, the other important thing is charity. Use one quarter. I never forced them. I said, I'm giving you, the 10 quarters, and I encourage you to use that other quarter to share with someone who needs it, or to give it to something that you think is important. And then I said, living on the other 6 quarters, you can spend them however you like. So that was kind of my concept for teaching my children to think about money in a different way than just as a source of making a living or whatever, that it can instill values and important things in their lives.
So which year was this, Steve? When did you start?
I think my daughter was probably 5, I guess, maybe right around 5. I think I started, our children are 2 years, 2 months apart, and I think I started them all about the same age, so probably about 5, to start planting those seeds. Now they were going to church, schools, and different things, so they were hearing some, some of those importance of giving. We gave at church, and that they talked about that, so they knew, and then we gave to other different organizations too. But it was an important part of that. But I also wanted them to see that, money isn't just something that you have. You have obligations to your community, taxes, right? You have obligations to yourself, your long-term financial well-being. Of course, there is Social Security in America, but that's a supplement to what I think you should be saving on your own, assuming you have the money to do this. Again, we were in a family that had an income where we could afford to do these gifts to our children to help them learn these principles. So not everyone can do that. But.
So this was in the year 1990.
So in 98, I guess, I first started this. Yeah.
1998. So the strange thing, Steve, is that it was just, I think, a year back in my office, we had a webinar on the same thing. And it just reminded me of you, because as Farhan told you, had talked about this, and they were giving the presentation on the same thing. So maybe I don't know.
They stole my idea.
They stole your idea. You should, maybe now people would know it's you. But so how did ever your kids, after growing up, feel like this was really important for us? Like, how did they feel? How did they feel this habit was? How did this impact them? I'm sure your kids' friends maybe would not be going through the same pattern of allowance and so much thought behind it. But did they feel that difference, that thank goodness we were fallen into this kind of habit and it made our life easy?
You'd probably have to ask them, but I can just give you some anecdotal evidence of what I would say that it did have a pretty good impact on them. My daughter married a fella during the COVID time, and they bought a duplex. So they're looking at a way to generate income from how they're living. So that, I think, is a testament to some of the principles and concepts that I taught back then. The other one that I'll share is that my youngest son graduated college recently and had a gap between he graduated in May and he had till October when he started his job. And he's an airplane nut, and he's wanted to have his pilot's license his whole life. And I said, okay, and he has no money, he just graduated college. I said, okay, so we'll fund your getting your pilot's license, and you can just pay us back once you start working. And he said, yeah, sure, but he insisted that he pay interest to us on that money. So I think he truly understands the value of money and the importance of earning money on your money and not, treating it as just a gift from his parents or whatever. He was insistent that he's being responsible for his own needs or desires in this particular case, and going to pay not only the money back but with interest. So I thought that was a very interesting kind of maybe a way to show that they understand money and the implications of money. And the other thing I might say is that they're all contributing to their retirement funds. Even my middle son is in a graduate school, and he gets, I call him, he's an indentured servant because he works basically for the university, but he's even saving for his retirement and the meager income that he has at this point. So anyhow, I think they see the importance of that. And then the important thing of them saving early, or anyone saving early, is what I call everyone calls the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. And so if you don't know what that is, look it up. But basically it's making money on the money you've earned income on.
Yeah.
And there's a thing in math about exponential growth. And so it will grow if you plant it, is all I can say. And if you're disciplined to save it, the sooner you start, the better off you'll be. So
Steve, over these years, when you started this kind of program with your kids, is that something you would like to change in that, or is that something it really worked well, or you think that we should add something into it to make it a little more perfect or better?
That's a really good question. I guess the better people at implementing it will be more disciplined about sticking to it. I guess I wasn't as disciplined in it for different periods of time when they each started. I was rather disciplined, but it fell by the way. I wasn't as I'm not as regimented a person as maybe you ought to be, or maybe you ought to set up a time where you actually do this as a family event or something. I would say that would have been better. So it did have the impacts I wanted, but I didn't implement it in a way that maybe I had envisioned originally. Sadly, we came across the envelope where I had put all this money. So, over all those years, all of that tax money that I had doubled in our safe. It was an envelope with a little paper clip around for each of the kids' money. So I had done it and disciplined it, but I didn't follow any of my advice. I left it in the safe, sitting there, not earning interest. Oh, it was very dumb of me, but it was a small amount, obviously. It was under $20 or whatever it was, maybe 40. I can't remember, but anyhow, it just sat there. I didn't anticipate forgetting about it as they aged, but they got older and life happened, I guess is what I would say.
So I think also when the kids start saving, like we teach them to save, we should also try to teach them that you can again invest and earn more from that saving rather than just saving. I think that is one good point you brought up, and that would be a good change to this plan. That
Very good point. Yes, that would be an important aspect. Is I think I talked about the whole idea of compound interest, but I didn't. Maybe at that age, it's very difficult a concept for them to understand. So I didn't probably stress it until as they got older and we talked more and more about money. But I think the other part of that is that it does give you a context in which to talk to your children about money all through their lives, because you've established, even if you do any, you don't do that complicated system that I did, but if you do any allowance, it gives them an opportunity to maybe ask you about money in the future, or for you to ask about money with them. You know, remember when we did this? How are you doing now? You know, I mean, you can use it as a jumping off point for future conversations, I think.
I do have one more question, Steve. Did you ever tell your kids, like, you know, if you do this work for your house, you know, I'll give you, like, if you do laundry, I'll give you extra money, or if you do dishwashing, I'll give you extra money. Did you ever try that?
I don't know that we really did.
I know we tried to give chores, you know, that they should just do as a part of the family, but that's very inconsistent. And I thought, you know, what's wrong with motivating with the money tied to the weekly allowance? Because we had friends that did that, and you know, they got action done around the house. And you know, that if that's your end game, that, you know, kids learning cleaning skills and also following through on their task because there is a reward, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, I guess I think that that feels like it's a job in some way. If you have money for work, I don't think it's a bad thing to help them be involved, but I kind of feel like the household tasks are maybe the things that you do because you're a part of the family, and there are work tasks that just need to be done. So that's maybe the way I think about that. But I don't think it's a wrong approach to use allowances as part of chores. I don't think it's wrong. It's just I don't think it was a thing that we ever emphasized.
Yeah, everything has a good side and also, you know, a fallback on that is like, you know, I won't work until you give me money.
Well, yeah, you can set up negative parts of that, right?
Parts of it.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But sometimes it works also, like then you get into a habit of doing it, then you just pull out the allowance part from there, and then you get habituated to that. Do that.
Yeah, you want to change things up to do that. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it has both sides, but whatever works for, you know, each family.
Yeah.
That's right.
But that was great advice and nice talking to you, Steve. And you, I don't know if that
Makes the cut.
I don't know if that got captured, but would have been good to have you both actually in the picture. So I'm going to make this, you know, session, and that one thing that I want to add into this is also expense, like. You know, I had that in my mind, that kids should also know the value of things.
Yes.
So if they break something, it's an expense for the parents.
Right.
So the kids should also take that expense.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's not that they'll take the whole expense.
No.
But at least the 10 cents. Yeah, you broke this.
right.
It's 10 cents. So.
No, I think that's a good point.
So I just
The
had
value.
that in my mind as well. So they'll be careful. Oh no, I have to be careful with my
Yeah,
things. you know.
right.
I think
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because you do, I mean, money's important, but things are important too, and you need to take care of the things you have because you don't want to waste money spending it on things you already have, right?
Right.
Things break anyhow,
Yes.
and you have to do that, but
Yeah.
let's be a little, if we're a little more careful, we can prevent and avoid
Yes.
some unnecessary expenses, let's say.
But nice talking to you, Steve. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for this insight.
Yes.
So let's see. Hope everyone likes it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking.